Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're at the 2015 Kansas Soybean Expo here in Topeka, Kansas, and we're joined by Michelle Payn-Knoper. I got it right that time. It took 2 times, but I got it right the second time. You're an advocate for agriculture. You farm yourself. Why is it so important that we continue to have advocacy for agriculture? I mean, we think about GMOs and antibiotic use in livestock, and I mean, we really need advocacy.
We really do, Brian, and the reality that I think we have to face in agriculture is that if we don't learn to share our story today, we will lose our right to farm as we best see fit tomorrow. Biotechnology is a great example of that. If you happen to be in the corn business, you might be familiar with what's happened with biotechnology over in Hawaii and how that affects 99% of the seed business here in the States. So the reality is that we are seeing clear bottom line impacts as well as regulation impacts and others from people that don't understand what farming is about today. Only 1.5% of the population in the United States is on a farm or ranch. We're 3 to 4 generations removed, and the reality is we haven't taken the time in agriculture to tell our story because we're stubborn, we're modest, we're independent, we don't want to deal with it. Most people want to be out there dealing with their equipment, their land, or their animals. And my position is very much that we have to invest in the future, our own future, to help people understand where their food comes from. Because if we don't, farming tomorrow is going to look vastly different than it does today.
Well, you think about it, Oregon had a ballot measure this fall in November about GMO labeling, and other states have looked at that as well. Fortunately, those have been shot down, I believe. I know Oregon lost. Again, consumers don't really know what's going on.
They don't, but I think we have to take responsibility in agriculture for the fact that consumers don't, because we've not taken the time in the past. You know, I know everybody's busy with planting or harvest or calving or whatever the latest excuse is, but the reality is if we don't take time to share our story, whether it's reaching out and shaking somebody's hand, or whether it's posting a photo on Instagram, or perhaps it's just sharing information in your church parking lot about what you're doing out in the field today. The reality is people aren't going to understand where their food comes from. And when I wrote my book, No More Food Fights, one of the things that I had to do is to take off the agriculture hat and put on the foodie hat, if you will, and understand the position of where consumers are coming from.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Michelle about her book, No More Food Fight. You're watching kansasAGreport, and we'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. Farmers Insurance, your best protection against the unexpected. Call Agent Dan Key at 785-408-5459. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. GrassandGrain.com. Blue River Traders, the finest selection of Western-style furniture for your home. BlueRiverTraders.com.
Thanks for staying with us. Michelle, thank you for staying with us. We kind of touched on it before we went to break, but you have a new book out called No More Food Fight. What do you mean by No More Food Fight?
No More Food Fights is a 2-sided book about growing a more productive farm and food conversation. And what I mean about No More Food Fights is we all eat. Some of us eat many times a day. Actually, some of us love food. And food should not be an emotional, contentious issue. It is a basic necessity. It's something that's important for people to understand where it comes from, rather than to buy in all of the misinformation that's out there. So I wrote No More Food Fights. As I said, it's 2-sided. And one side is for the farm audience that addresses the 6.5 steps of how to share your story. And then the other side is for the food audience, people who are interested in bringing some common sense and non-emotionalism to their plate, and that focuses on the 5 senses plus common sense. And then the chapter in the middle is about meeting in the middle, because my whole position with No More Food Fights is that we need to be able to meet in the middle and understand the perspectives of not only farmers, but also dietitians, food buyers, moms, and chefs, and others that
physicians
have
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you bring up a good point. We all have one thing in common: is we need to have nutrition to sustain life everywhere. Ourselves, livestock, aquatic. We need food to sustain life. What do you hope people take away from the book?
Well, my hope is that it provides farmers and others in agriculture with the tools to be able to tell their story. This is not rocket science. It's about talking about something that we love, something that we're out there doing every day, something that quite frankly is novel to the majority of the population. And if I could just get some farmers that are out there sharing photos on Facebook or perhaps shooting a video on YouTube, I know that sounds terrible, but being able to do some things like that, I think it would make a huge difference. And I actually had 35 different contributors to the book, including Darren Grimm from Kansas and Ryan Weeks from Nebraska, Zach Honeycutt from Nebraska, for those of you that are viewing from the northern state. But it's a great opportunity for farmers to be able to learn from others about why this is important. And then on the food side, I really wrote it because I see so many of my fellow moms that are buying into the guilt about how to buy food, and I think it's really unfortunate. As a mom, I take great responsibility in how I feed my daughter and have for her entire lifetime. And I know how easy it is to feel guilty. The reality is that food does not have to be complicated today. And if you are making your decisions on how you buy food based upon your social and ethical responsibilities and information that is realistic and hopefully science-based, then no judgment on how you buy your food. I think that's a personal choice. So No More Food Fights really tries to focus on getting people to meet in the middle of the plate, if you will.
And you also have a website that I think people should go and check out. It also gives them good information there as well.
Thanks. I do have causematters.com. There is a blog on there called Gate to Plate blog, which I'm not real great about updating anymore, but there are a tremendous amount of articles for both farmers, foodies, dietitians. My goal in my work as a professional speaker is really to bring people together around the plate and to connect the people in science of food and farming.
Perfect, Michelle. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Michelle, No More Food Fights is a new book. You can find it, I'm sure, online or at your local bookstore.